one life is all we have, and we live it as we believe in living it. But to sacrifice what you are and to live without belief, that is a fate more terrible than dying. And that's a quote by Joan of Arc. And our guest, Amina Mohamed, submitted that as a suggestion to start my show. And wow, that could be a whole conversation or a whole something to meditate on. So, anywho, welcome again to The Profitable Photographer. I am still Lucy Dumas, and I am encouraging you to find this show on YouTube and please subscribe. I want more people to be able to see the happy, lovely faces of the people that I'm interviewing and be able to find us on that channel. So it would be a huge favor if you would do that. If you comment, if you listen to other ones, that is even more fun. So, I'm excited to talk to Amina today. She spent 15 years exploring her passion for photography while working in the film and television industry as a producer, production manager, and I assume more on numerous movies and documentaries. And then 4 years ago, she started an initiative called Cameras for Girls. And their mission is to teach photography and business skills to marginalized women across Africa who endeavor to become journalists. And what she does is she gives them a camera and teaches. And she's taught 47 women in Uganda and 10 online in South Africa. And wow, I mean, 65% of the women in this program have gotten full-time jobs. So that's huge. So, Amina, welcome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
I have a heart for giving back. And so I'm super excited to learn more about you and this program, and maybe give people some thoughts about, maybe they don't have to start a huge program. Maybe they can do something small locally. But I want to inspire people, and I'm sure you do too, to
absolutely
find a calling like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So just a little quick background. I'd like to know more about where you got the heart for this program and anything else in your background that might help us understand, what's in here and why and what's in here.
This is a scary place. This is full of heart. So I've lived in Canada for 50 years. We just celebrated our 50-year anniversary, actually. We came to Canada as refugees from Uganda.
Oh, wow.
3 years old. And I grew up hearing amazing stories about what our life was like in Uganda before we were all kicked out. So the Asians were kicked out, basically, from Uganda with 3 months' notice by then President Idi Amin. I was only 3, and it shaped my life. And I went back for the first time while working in film and television as a documentary producer. I went back for the first time in 2007. And what I saw and what was our past did not reconcile. Immense poverty, everything that we had left behind was gone. But what really bothered me the most was plight of women and girls. So I'd grown up in Canada having every opportunity. I mean, life was tough because we came as refugees and we didn't have much. So worked and scraped and to do what we could. So it's the traditional refugee story. But in your youth, in my youth, I squandered a lot of those opportunities, thinking that I knew better, right? Because you're good when you're young. So I went in 2007 and I saw the plight of women and girls, where they were getting married at very young ages, sometimes as young as 14. No education because they're born girls. If they do get an education, it's because their mother was educated before them. But if she wasn't, then the cycle continues. And then the poverty and the gender inequality, and there's no empowerment, and they're told, to be seen but not to be heard, and all that, garbage.
Yeah.
And it really bothered me. So I came home and I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know how to make a difference, but I had realized that Uganda was a part of who I was, part of
Mm-hmm.
my soul.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward 10 years literally, and I wake up in the middle of the night and I come up with the idea that I'd left film and television by this point, but I was looking for a way back in. I was looking
Mm-hmm.
for a way to regroup my passion. And it wasn't enough just to say, hey, I'm going to pick up a camera and take photos, because I had to justify it,
Mm-hmm.
to leave a good job and go back. And that's when I came up with the idea to go back and transform the lives of local girls endeavoring to be journalists, because when they graduate from university program, they're told you need to own a camera and know how to use it to get a job, but a
Ah,
guy or a male doesn't. And that didn't sit with me.
yeah.
And that's how it started.
Oh, wow. And so, um, do they need to own professional cameras? Or I'm going to have you probably tell me more details.
Yeah,
This
absolutely.
is coming up at another time. But just my first thought is, um, a lot of people like me have cameras in our closets
Mhm.
and we've upgraded, and some of them are
Yeah.
not professionals. So do they have to be
No, they don't. Like for donations, we accept anything. I take people's used or new cameras, film cameras, old stuff. Because what we do is what we cannot use, we sell. And
ah,
then that money helps us buy
oh
the
wow.
cameras that we do. And we've chosen, excuse me, to work with the Canon G1X camera for a specific reason. Because when I was researching what's at my, what's possible here within funding thresholds, but
Mm-hmm.
also something that's going to give the girls great opportunity to learn both photography and videography, but
Mm-hmm.
be robust enough and small enough to put in a purse, because they
Ah,
don't want to get stolen,
right,
right?
right.
It's a lot of investment on our part. And I am proud to announce that Canon Canada is also a sponsor. And when we
Mm-hmm.
spoke a couple of months ago about, hey, they'll upgrade me to DSLRs, I said no, because these girls are just learning.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like having a Porsche when you don't know how to drive, right?
Right.
And so they learn from somewhere. And so this camera fits all those, like, buckets or all those points. And it's perfect for carrying, because I have to carry them to Uganda as well.
Ah,
So
so you don't want to
it
be
gets
carrying
hefty.
Hasselblads
No. Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah.
No, yeah, yeah. And I want
So
one camera that we can just learn and teach from.
uh-huh. So you take donations of camera gear and you have a
Mhm.
way that you sell them so that you can buy these small point and shoot
Yeah.
cameras that are
Well,
good.
they're point and shoot, but they're a little bit more towards the professional side than,
Right,
your average consumer point and shoot, right? They're still
right,
$750 on average for
right.
one camera. But it's a great camera to learn with. They've got a built-in ND filter. Like mine doesn't even have that. And I've got like a super expensive camera, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, it's an awesome camera.
awesome. So I'll ask you this again, but in the show notes for the listeners, I'm sure there is a place that you can click
Yes.
on to learn more, to donate. Uh, do you also have a place that people can purchase, or does that go? Do you sell them to somebody
Like
else?
purchase the cameras, you
Yes,
mean? No, we haven't done that because I'm a one-person band,
right.
one woman band at this
For
point.
today.
So there's only so many things I can do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
And selling them works much better for us than, being able to turn it around and sell it to somebody else, sort of
Right.
thing.
Right.
We have
Right. I love
we
it.
have an amazing friend here who has a camera store who
Mm.
does that for us.
Oh, good.
So yeah,
Good. Good.
yeah.
Okay. So, what's the first thing I should ask you? I have so many things. So is there more about
Yeah,
your program? A story or two about specific
absolutely. Yeah.
girls that have been impacted?
Yeah, so like you mentioned in the beginning, we've taught 47 in person in Uganda and then 10 online during COVID in South Africa. So in
Mm,
the South African cohort, two of them got photography jobs. One has just finished our mentorship program and is now venturing on her and a position in photography, because their journalists do well, but it's the photography sector that's very male dominated, and they really want an entrance into that because they can take that photography knowledge and, it can go so many ways, right? They can do headshots, you name it, like product photography. One of my girls is doing. In Uganda, it's very storytelling centered. So they want to become journalists, but some of them have said, excuse my language, but screw this journalism thing. I want to be an owner of my own business. So one of the or two, and now they own their own photography businesses, which is awesome. Some have gone into communications. It's just, our training encompasses so much that they can take from it what they will and develop, a life that they want. And I'm very careful that even though I'm from Uganda, I never want to go in and tell them how it should be in order to receive funding like so many NGOs do. I'm very careful not to be colonial mindset in that way. I ask them what they need, and then we develop our programming around that to deliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do they have access to computers so they can digitally do things?
Yeah, so what I've done in Uganda specifically, because we've done 3 workshops, and I should mention, I'll answer those question in 2 parts. So we've built a editing lab in Uganda, in Kampala, which is where we train out of the capital. And it has 2 computers equipped with Lightroom, Photoshop, you name it. And we have a partner with, one of our sponsors is Kelby One. So every year they give us a license so the girls can learn not just Photoshop and Lightroom, but about so many other things, everything that's on that Kelby One platform. So that's available to them. What I've done is, further to the workshop that I give, which is a 4-day workshop, I've developed a 4-phase program. So there's different phases that they're going to enter throughout our time together. The first phase is the 4-day workshop. The 4-day workshop includes them learning how to use that camera. By the end of the 3rd day, they're in manual. Some of these girls have never touched a camera before. We do a lot of practice, but we also cover a lot of storytelling because they're learning how to be journalists. And then the 4th day, we do a field practice where we get to work with a partner, non-governmental agency, now NGO, with the same themes of female empowerment and education as a right, and they get field practice. They learn how to, research the story, interview the subject, build the story, write the story, take the photos, and then put it all together in a package. So that's a portfolio, but also for the NGO to share in their marketing. And then phase 2 starts when I get back home to Canada. And that's a year-long online training program that I've built, going all the way from beginner to advanced concepts, and plus storytelling. And I built an online video platform so that they can watch these at their leisure. Because the challenge we have is that they don't always have internet access at the time that I'm training, or they can't always jump on the internet because many governments will sequester that internet. So I built this so that they can have access 24/7. And then I also do Friday sessions for 1 to 2 hours. I teach them something new. We talk about their photos. They get to learn and meet other girls. And it's a very networky kind of thing. And then monthly assignments so that they, put into practice what they're learning.
So what everybody can use.
And then phase 3 and then phase 4. So it keeps on going.
Yes. So Amina, I would be happy to give a class or a couple of classes on how to
that'd be fun.
How to run a business, how to sell your photography. My coaching business, my superpower is sales, and not just okay, let's sit down and sell, but the whole principle. So please,
I'd love to take you
more
up on that. Absolutely.
Yeah. The fact that I could have an impact on some young women in Africa would be everything to me. So
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I
Thank you.
many years ago, and it was that same, like, you heard the calling kind of thing.
Yeah.
I kept hearing that I was supposed to do something with my camera to help children, and foster kids kept coming up. And through some magical things that I'm not going to tell you the story, but if you're friends with Christina, so I assume you believe in a certain kind of magic, right? Powers of intention. And I connected with the San Diego County Adoption that was putting a calendar together of kids that are ready for
adoption.
homes. And the coincidence is they were doing it in conjunction with churches, primarily African American and other people of, churches that are primarily people of color. My dad was a pastor. So to take these pastors and priests and put them with these kids and photograph them was easy for me, because I know who, what's your sermon topic tomorrow and things like that.
Right.
And
you came from the world.
Yeah. And because kids are my heart, and getting to photograph these children and look in their eyes and see their souls and share that with the world is the thing in my life so far. Maybe this podcast is coming in there too, but the thing I'm the most proud of in my life. And the first year of the calendar, every kid got a home. And the second year, all but one really difficult sibling group got homes. So, and
I'm an adoptive mom, so that means a lot. There you go.
So follow your heart, listeners. Something's calling you.
Absolutely.
And the interesting thing is, it was so the second year I spent like a month's worth of work, and I just decided, oh well, I'm not going to get paid for it. That's fine. Money comes to me easily and with love. That's my mantra. And then, like, the week I finished, I got a call from the assistant to a golfer's wife that's very famous, and they became clients of mine every year for 8 years. And I feel like it was a direct, appreciation from the universe or whatever. You did your part, so we're going to fill in the financial loss and more with this family, which wasn't my intent, but givers receive when we're open to it. So everybody listening,
I love that.
Listen to that calling. So it's if I told you all the magical coincidences of how this all came about, you'd be like, yeah, that was meant to be. But just the one little, because some listeners might be like, well, what is it? So right when I was getting that little ding, 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 there was a committee meeting saying, we need to do a calendar. We need to find a photographer. While I'm over here, unbeknownst to me, this was in the works. And then how we all found each other was another cool thing. And it morphed into this program called the Heart Gallery. I don't know if that's still going on, but it was a national program of photographers photographing foster kids that are ready for placement and doing big prints and having exhibits in their city.
That's amazing. Wow.
Pretty cool to be involved with that. All right. So my question was, how do you, okay, that question doesn't make sense. How do you give back and make the world a better place? I think you already answered that.
I'm doing my best, right? I mean, I think we all have inherent gifts inside of us, whether it's photography, art, spoken word, whatever it is, right? We all have something we're really, really good at. And it doesn't take a lot to pass it on to somebody else who might be looking for that skill, who might be looking to learn about that. And, you know, it doesn't always have to be in exchange for money. And I think many times people say, okay, well, I've got this skill and I'm going to put a course together and I'm going to sell it to as many people as I can. But there's nothing there about goodwill and generosity. And I think that's what I think that's what we're lacking in this world. It's, I've seen a lot of people, and I don't want to be broad, but it's a lot of, you know, what's in it for me sort of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to inspire people to think like, how else can I make this world a better place? Because there's a lot of crap going around, right? Environment, women's issues, Me Too move. Like there's always something. And we need to sort of put the brakes on all of that and look at how do we collectively come together to make this world a better place?
Yeah. And what I find is even when I'm just doing something, because I'll get overwhelmed, like I want to fix it all. Like right now, one of the things that's currently heavy on my heart is women from the dawn of time until now, even in my neighborhood with my coaching clients, women still are not equal. Women, like, why are men in charge? I love men, but just because they're stronger and we have babies, that doesn't give, and it's after, 50 years as a feminist, it just astounds me that things have not changed, even in first world countries, as much as I would have thought. My coaching clients who are women still overall are expected to find a way to pay for childcare if they're going to be working in their business.
Or do double duty. If you can't find childcare, do the childcare and still run business and run the home and da 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 da.
Right. Working on a business. And when you were sharing about it's not just in Uganda, but worldwide. There are so many countries where women are not educated, and the leaders are not connecting the dots. That these are the people that are raising the people of tomorrow. Even if you only wanted men to succeed, you want their mothers to be educated. You want their mothers to be healthy. You want them,
because it passes down generation to generation, and it changes that. It breaks the cycle, right? It breaks the cycle of people not being educated, it breaks the cycle of poverty, breaks the cycle of gender inequality, all of those, right? And they're showing now that with the environment, people are starting to also talk about how does that frame around gender equality, because males get more affected by environmental issues than males. Right? It's the females who run these homes in 90% of the world's homes. It's the female. So if you're not going to give her, if you're not going to empower her, if you're not going to give her that voice, if you're not going to give her autonomy, she's the one who's going to make the difference at the end of the day. It's been proven that if you give a woman $1, she can stretch that to $1.25. If you give a man $1, it's going to stop at $1 or less, right? And especially in the developing world, that makes a huge difference.
Even if you only care about men, it's smart to empower their mothers and their sisters, because the sisters are, a lot of times, if the mom is working, the sisters are going to be the ones that are helping raise their younger brothers and sisters. So the logic of it, I was a social science major. So my brain has been trying to come up with, like, why is it still a thing? But we can't answer that today, other than if we
but
do.
It's funny. I have to say that when I started this, those themes were not even in my head, right? Gender empowerment and all of these societal norms that you'd expect. They were not even in my radar because I grew up here. But once I started working in Africa and seeing how life is so different, I'm like a proud feminist. It's not a dirty word anymore,
Mm-mm.
right? It's like something to be proud of, because you can make change in a very small, significant way. You know, it doesn't have to be grand.
Right.
It's a drop in the bucket, maybe some will say, but it's my drop in the bucket. And through that, I am, you know, I'm changing the lives of those 47 women, and they will change the lives of the next 47 women. And it'll
Right.
be like, it's a small movement, right?
Right.
It's something that can change. And it just takes one tool, a camera, to make all of those ripple effects
I
happen.
know. That's amazing. Yeah. To me, the definition of feminism is believing that women are people. You know,
Yeah, simple as that.
yeah, simple as
Imagine.
that. Yeah, and that we don't, I love what you said about that using whatever is our gift, we can make a difference. Do you know the starfish story?
No, remind
Oh,
me.
I love this story, and it's so what you're doing. So there was a storm. I always picture this somewhere like Cape Cod or a
Right.
beach in Maine. So there's a big storm out to sea, and it sweeps all kinds of starfish onto the shore, like thousands. And if they stay on shore, they're gonna dry up and die. And there's a
Right.
man walking along throwing starfish back into the water. And no, let's say it's a woman. Sorry for my men listeners. I love you too. So there's a woman throwing starfish in the ocean to save them. And someone comes up and says, you know, there's thousands and thousands on the beach. You can't save them all. And she says, but I can save this one.
Right.
So
Yep.
that's what you're doing,
Absolutely.
so that there
Absolutely.
can be
Yeah.
more starfish babies and so forth.
That's it.
So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Um, so I know there's a lot of, well, I heard you say, did you use the word appropriation? But I can't remember the word you used, but you're wanting to share
Empowerment.
with us about ethical photography. Because when you said you
Absolutely.
don't impose your
Yeah.
program, you let them drive so
Yeah.
that you're not like this, first world person coming in to
Yeah.
appropriate.
With my colonial
Oh,
ideals,
colonialism.
or with
That was
my
it.
first,
Okay.
yeah, first world sensibilities, right?
Right.
Thinking that we live, which I did before I even went to Africa, is the same as how they live, right?
Right. Right.
But it's also about ethical photography. So I was, until recently, running my own travel and tourism company, doing photo tours. Now I'm going to be working with another company. And so the thing that I would really be cognizant of is bringing people from, say, Canada and the US to Africa. And we visit a lot of different tribes, Maasai being one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always teach that don't travel, regardless of where you're going, don't travel and just be happy snapper.
Mm-hmm.
Understand the culture that you're visiting, whether it is Italy, whether it's Africa, wherever it is. Understand that culture and the people and what makes them tick, and about their food, and about what time of day they eat. Do they have siesta? Do whatever. What are their cultural practices, holidays? Why do they dress that way? In Africa, especially in Uganda, 54 different tribes, and each one is very different from the other. So when
Wow.
you go round, you're being like really learning about the different people, and to segment as, oh, they're just African, is doing them a disservice, and yourself as well, as a traveler slash photographer. And you always want to ask for permission. Don't just snap away if something really interests you. Ask them, may I take your photo? And tell them where you're going to be using it. In this advent of living in social media, all we care about is our next photo and getting those likes. But
Mm-hmm.
what's the story behind it, right?
Yeah.
And especially wildlife photography. Is that animal being put in danger for you to get that shot?
So
Because I see that. I see
wildlife,
that
like if
every
someone goes to Africa and they're
safari,
on
right?
a
I mean,
safari. So
yeah,
how do you
animals
learn
being
those
put in
things?
danger. I think I've done a lot of trips now. And I do a lot of reading. I'm an avid reader, a lot of studying, a lot of talking to other people on the ground, speaking to my guides, really learning from them as
Mhm.
to their local, what are the local cultures and practices around photography. And you will see in Uganda, especially, a lot of people going like this. And if they do that, they're not saying hello, they're saying, don't take my photo.
Mhm.
And I always say thank you, and I move on, right?
Mhm.
And it's learning and
Yeah.
respect, a lot of respect, because
So
it'll change photography as well. It'll change how you see the world.
yes, yes. So what I hear you saying is if you get really curious before you go about what the situation is, who the people are, what the culture is, and
Yeah.
then respectful where now, how do you ask permission if you're seeing something happening that is
In the moment.
in the moment? You can't stop and say, okay, walk by there again. Make sure you
Yeah,
stand in this
exactly.
doorway
I will
with,
literally be like, pick up my camera, and I'll go like this, and they'll say no, and I'll be like, thank you. That's it. But my guide uh, will be very important in that respect as well, because he knows the local culture. He might have taken us to a place where he's been many times, and he's already
Mhm.
broached the subject of, I'm bringing people, can they take photos, right? And that's already been handled. But
Okay.
I'll give you an idea. I'll give you an instance. So we were on a tour in 2019, and one of my guests saw a little girl sadly on the sidewalk defecating, and she was clearly malnourished.
Mhm.
Um, and she went to take the photo, and I put my hand on top of her hand, like camera, and I brought it back down. I said, poverty porn has no
Mm.
place in your repertoire of
Oh,
photos, because what are you proving here? What is it helping? It's not anything to do with raising funds for a charity. It's just something you're going to share on social media. Is it going to change the conversation? And
right,
she said, I guess not. And I said, then you don't take the photo, right? And
right.
so it's our job as photo guides or tour operators to also educate our guests, right? But
Mm.
respectfully, because
Mm.
they don't know either, right?
Right,
So, um, and those images get seared on your brain. You don't necessarily need to take photos of them.
right, right. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
thinking we've had conversations about this, uh, about homeless people, right
Yeah.
here downtown, all of our downtowns or wherever. And it's that same question. Definitely, we can get some very compelling images, but the question is, should we?
Yeah,
Now, but if you're a
absolutely.
journalist, how is that different? If you're,
I'm teaching my girls respectfully approach your subjects, even if you are Ugandan and you're living in Uganda and this is your culture. Learn how to approach your subject, have a conversation, get to know them before you even take out your camera.
mm,
Because when you do take out your camera, now they know you, they know what your purpose is, they understand why you're taking their photo, and they're more apt to say yes. But if you just bring up your camera and you want to take a shot and they don't know who the hell you are, you're never going to get anywhere.
yeah. So I'm still baffled about then how do we get candid photos? Because once you have any contact, the
Yeah.
moment is
Street
over,
photography is
the
huge, right?
story
Yeah.
is over.
Yeah.
So what are your, it sounds like that
I
is,
think it depends on where you are. I mean, I haven't done street photography in a long time, but I don't hide my camera if I'm doing street photography, but I also don't have my massive lens or big lens, right? I have a small camera,
Mhm.
walk around, and it all depends on where I am and what the images are. If it's people walking by on the street, I'm like, it's not going to hurt anybody. But if it is a homeless settlement or something that's something that marginalizes the society further, then I
Mm.
say, do it, put your camera down. But that's just a
Yeah,
personal thing, right?
yeah,
I can't preach about everybody, but and it all depends on, at the end of the day, are you selling those images? Then you need to have you need to have written consent at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's a big question. And so what I'm hearing is really think about, let's say you happen to capture something that is like amazing in terms of journalism, storytelling, composition, all the above, but it might hurt somebody. Ask, do I really need to show this? Do I, when like with street photography, is this, I love what you said, further hurting a marginalized community or person, or causing more
I was
pain.
just in Africa in July, and I have amazing images of 3 different tribes in Tanzania, and I won't share them. Not because I didn't get approval or written consent, but it won't do anything to change the story. So I share it.
Yeah. Photography is such a powerful medium, and putting our heart and our eyes, connecting those is what I hear you saying. Connect the dots.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And it really has made me, I don't know, a better traveler, a better photographer, more compassionate.
Yeah, I love it.
I just want to meet people, get to know them, right? Before I even bring a camera.
Yeah.
Like it's that human connection.
It's so many people that I meet this day. There are so many people now, because of social media, I think, who are afraid to be out in public, afraid to even pick up a phone. So how do you suggest when they're traveling, they push past that? Do you have a thought?
I think when you go travel, you're going with the advent to learn about a new culture, a new country, a new food, a new way of living that you're not used to. So that, number 1, is the reason for traveling. Number 2 is to see sights, right? It's not the sights and then let me figure out the culture. The challenge I see with a lot of photo tour operators, let's say, out there, is they'll show people the sights and the safari, and you'll do all the fun things, but you'll never meet the local people.
Yeah.
So you miss out on getting that view into a different culture, which at the end of the day, having, like, I live in just outside of Toronto. Toronto is Canada's melting pot. All different cultures, nationalities, religions, living side by side. Not always in harmony, but we're trying.
Yeah.
And that's really incredible, because I can go into like 2 blocks down and I'll meet somebody from Greece, and I can go 2 blocks up and I'll meet somebody from Ethiopia, and 2 blocks that way and I'll meet somebody from somewhere else. And I can literally spend 1 day on a street and meet like people from all over the place, which I don't have to travel to that country if I really take the time to get to know them. Right. And so remember in the back of the day, learning how to be with your neighbors or whatever. I think that's what travel does. It allows you to meet your neighbors. And get a view into culture, right? And
I find
down that racism and all those other things.
Right. I find when I travel alone, I meet more people than when I'm with a friend and we're engaged in our friendship. So one of the reasons, besides which I like to sleep in a bed solo, in a room solo, because I have a hard time sleeping. TMA.
Me too.
All right. So let's say now somebody's listening and their heart is kind of getting on fire, or they're like, I want to do something. I want to do something to make the world a better place. So can you give us some thoughts about how you would start? And we're going to do some points on this. So first thing would be.
First thing is figure out what it is that your talent is. Is it photography or is it something else? Second step is figure out which segment of society you want to help. Is it women? Is it children? Is it the homeless? Like, there's so many different segments of society. Third thing is, don't even worry about, oh my God, I need a registered charity and I need this and I need that. If you have connections in a place, for me, it was easy because Uganda was always home in my heart and with the people. And I have a connection there with a journalist. So it was easy for me to say, hey, I want to come and do this in Uganda. Can you support me? And away we went, right? But if you don't have that, start looking for other organizations who may be already doing what you want to do. Reach out to them and say, hey, how can I volunteer with you? How can I come in and lend my expertise to join your team as a volunteer? Because they are going to take you. Like, as a charity, we're desperate for volunteers, right? But be careful. I go back in a second. Be careful about volunteerism. So I'll touch on that in a second. And then number 5, if this is after you've volunteered, you've gone and you've said, oh my God, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Then you start saying to yourself, okay, how do I start my own initiative, either registered or unregistered? Registered gives you the ability to be a registered charity and raise funds. In the US, it's much easier than in Canada. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
There's more people donating to charities in US than Canada.
Interesting.
So that's it. Like basically 5 steps.
Okay.
And back to the volunteerism is there's volunteering and then there's volunteerism. Volunteerism means that you're paying an organization on the ground to go and volunteer with them, and you're paying sometimes $2,000 to $4,000 to go and do it. You get maybe a week or 2 with them to learn what they're doing and to help out. And 90% of the time, people go and they spend a day or 2, and then they're partying it up in the beaches or travel or doing whatever. So that to me is not volunteering. It's it's not very an ethical way of volunteerism. Let's just put it that way.
Interesting.
So you just got to be careful of the programs that you look for.
Right. Now, it might spark somebody to open up and want to do more if they do it thinking, oh, it'll be fun and I can.
Yeah. And I mean, there's
party,
nothing
maybe I'll
wrong
meet a
with that.
boy.
Yeah, exactly. But if your goal is volunteering, then strictly volunteer, right? If it's, I want a bit of fun and I want a bit of this, then that's for you. I'm not judging. I'm just saying the difference.
Yeah. That nothing necessarily wrong with it, but it's not the same.
You're not going to learn if that's what you're looking for. You're not going to learn anything to guide you in taking your own initiative or starting your own initiative.
It's not necessarily going to expand your talents or use those individual gifts that you've been given on this, as a human. I love it.
And you don't necessarily have to travel abroad. Because there's tons of organizations in your local area that could use your skills. Right? Like women's shelters, you could offer your photography skills and go and offer to take headshots of women who are desperate to get back into the workforce, but lack the finances or lack the resources to get this done. You partner with, a clothing store in your area that can give her a nice something to wear, a makeup artist, have a day, and you invite these women to get their portraits done. There's so many ways. An animal shelter, you can go and donate your time as a photographer, take photos of animals that are up for adoption. I mean, like, there's so many ways. Local communities can totally need your help.
You don't have to fly to Africa to do that.
You don't have to fly to Africa.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come, but you don't have to. Yeah.
So could people join you?
Yeah, absolutely.
The program.
So what we do is we had 2 people come from the US last training, and it was in combination with the photo tour I was doing. So it worked out where we spent the first 4 days with the Cameras for Girls, and then we took off and did a photo tour through Uganda and Tanzania. But as I mentioned, I'm closing that part down and joining another company. So I bring people who want to really immerse themselves, get to know the girls, get to see what we do on the ground. Some of them are photographers, many of them are not. They want to learn photography themselves, or they just want to be in an immersive area where they can really see the work on the ground. So there's so many different ways to participate.
Yeah, I think we could talk for a few more hours or days or weeks. It just one of my friends that lives in Toronto told me that I needed to interview Amina, that I would love her, and she was right. So I think she lives near, anyway, she lives near you. She's one of those nice Canadians. So
yes,
yeah. Although I'm very surprised as an American that there's more donations and volunteerism in America than Canada, because we think
in charitable, yeah.
Yes.
Charitable giving is huge in the US, more than Canada. So, but it's also US is bigger per capita, right? But we have a harder time raising funds for the same thing that would happen in the US.
Yeah.
So I think my next marriage is to an American so that I can register in the US and our funds.
All right. Yeah, I think of Canadians as nicer in general than Americans, but
yeah, I know. It's all about charitable giving, right? And what's possible. Yeah.
Well, and that would be a whole interesting social science exploration of why. And maybe it's marketed more here, that maybe there's more.
I'm not sure. It's just there's studies being done, and it's kind of depressing because we're desperate to raise funds, keep on right?
Maybe you're just so cold that you're just dealing with being cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't bother me. I can't help anybody. I'm cold.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So 2 questions. What is the best way to get in touch with you? What's your website? And so forth.
So we're at camerasforgirls.org. I'll send you that. And you can email me directly at Amina, AMINA, at Cameras for Girls, CAMERASFORGIRLS.org.
Great.
And perfect way to get in touch with me.
And last question. It's just an open forum for you to have the last word, either something you didn't share that you wanted to, or just a parting thought. The floor is yours.
I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to expand awareness amongst other photographers, both in Canada and the US. It's really important because it's not just about photography. We have a holistic program where we teach photography, business skills, mentoring, the whole thing. But photography is our common language. And I recently was on social media, and we're still trying to grow our social media. And one of the photographers who reached out to me just wrote to me saying, "Thank you for what you did." And that made my day. Like, thank you for what you do. Because he said, "I've been wanting to do something and I just don't know how." So if you have an idea and you want to talk, I'm open. So reach out. More than willing to guide people, because I think the more we can expand on giving of ourselves and our talents, the better it'll make our world.
Right. And I want to tell everybody a secret that's signs into the profitable photographer with profit as a motive. It is amazing how much comes back to us when we give without the thought of receiving. So
Absolutely.
To me, and quick little story, my local photography chapter, Professional Photographers of America, when I was president many years ago, I had a past president's luncheon, and I had everyone still alive that had been a president to come, and year by year, I asked them to share what happened during their year. And it started in the 50s. And it was like, and they limped along, and, just some people, 10 people, 15 people. And then they decided to do some charitable photography, to give back. And from that point on, the group grew. It was solid. It was like financially stable. That there's something about, and it may be the way it expands us so that we're more capable, or it might just be the universe or the angels or whoever takes care of these things, just expressing gratitude in a real world way. So giving is profitable, and even without any money coming back, the joy of knowing we're making a difference in the world is more than money, is better than money, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they've shown that giving actually makes you a happier person.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And stay tuned
thank you.
For my wrap up. So it's been a delight. Amina, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Bye for now. So I'm back. It's just me, but I know I'm enough. So before I do my little quick wrap up, just a reminder, please go to YouTube and subscribe and share these videos with your friends. I understand that a lot of people now are getting their podcasts through the video aspect. And of course, feel free to share on any other platform wherever you're listening to this, if you're not looking at it. But that would be a huge favor to me right now. And so I just love this conversation. First of all, isn't it incredible what she's doing and how she's officially impacted the lives of 57 women? But just think about the lifetime and generational impact, empowering women to be able to be educated in an art form that's very marketable. It's fantastic. And so I hope that this sparks some thoughts in you about, big or small ways that you can use your talents, use your passions to support other people, to help make the world a better place. We need each other. We're one species. It's one world. But you can do it with your next door neighbor. You don't have to go to Africa. And then I asked her, she talked about ethical photography. I thought that was really valuable to think about whether a photograph that you're taking, especially of a person or an animal, has potential to improve their lives, is kind, she used the word like photographic porn, or there was another, anyway, the ethics of what we do. I really appreciate her bringing that up. And then if you're feeling a burning desire in your heart or in your mind to maybe do something, she suggested, first of all, think about what you're talented at. Second, what segment of society you would like to help. Next, don't worry that you have to register or start something. You can look for places to volunteer. And then if you discover that this is something you love to do, then check out whether you want to register so you can fundraise, or, you don't have to fundraise for things. Get out there and do it. So thank you again for listening. And I know this has been a very special episode for me, and hopefully it's touched your heart and gotten you excited. And if you want to donate to her, I'm sure that if you go to her website, there's places to donate either cameras or money. So that is all for now. And I adore you all in 91 countries and counting, even if I haven't seen you. Yeah, I'm so grateful that you're here, you're listening, and you're You're doing nothing I asked you to do. Oh, subscribing on the YouTube channel. Okay, bye for now.